pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Here.
Councilmember Dewey,
Here.
Councilmember Gibbons. Here. Councilmember Litzo.
Here.
Councilmember Sears,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Here. We welcome back Councilmember Itzo, who's come back after a brief hiatus, her first meeting. So
Not even 2 years.
welcome back.
It's great to be back, Mayor. Thank you.
We have three public hearings tonight. We'll get right. First is a request for a zoning map amendment to rezone 10414 Big Bend Boulevard from R4 to RMM. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor. I would offer as Exhibit 1, the affidavit of publication verifying that notice of this public hearing appeared in the St. Louis County. And Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication verifying notice public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Exhibit 3 is a list of property owners to whom notice of this hearing has been sent. Exhibit 4 is the viewer map showing the location of the subject of the public hearing as well as the surrounding properties. Exhibit 5 is the Planning and Zoning Commission Subcommittee report dated March 16, 2022. And Exhibit 6 is the report of the Planning and Zoning Commission dated March 17, 2022, in which the commission recommended approval of a zoning map amendment to rezone 10414 Big Bend Boulevard from R4 to RMM. And Exhibit 7 is the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood.
Mr. Hawes, who will present this to the City Council?
That would be Amy Lowry, City Planner.
Thank you. And before Amy starts, I'll say, no, go ahead, Amy, you're fine. Just say a few words, which I'll repeat for the next two public hearings. So everyone knows a public hearing is a chance for City Council to hear about the project. There's no vote taken tonight. You won't hear council members saying I'm in favor, I'm opposed, or anything like that. It's just for us to get information, and then all three public hearings will have their first vote on May 19th, which is our next meeting. So, but Amy, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As we said, this is a rezoning request from R4, which is single family residential, to RMM, which is residential missing middle. And the subject property is on Big Bend Boulevard. This is a survey of the property. There is a structure on the property, a house, and then also a small accessory structure in the back. It's 21,293 square feet, or about half an acre. And it's 119 feet wide, and there's actually two subdivision lots here. Just to give you an aerial view, it is just west of the Kingsgate Apartments, and also there is a structure here. The lot is zoned single family residential, but it is a 4-unit multifamily building. And just to give you a view of the surrounding zoning, obviously the Kingsgate is zoned R5, which is multifamily, and then the surrounding uses are all R4, including where that fourplex multifamily is. This is a view of the property from Big Bend Road. You may be familiar with this property. It was hit by a car, I think, 5 years ago. But it's been unoccupied since at least 2016, and the electricity has been cut off since at least that time too. And then just a view of the property from the rear. So it is located in our transition mixed use area on our Envision 2035 comp plan. And that area is intended to provide a balance between downtown and residential neighborhoods to the north of Big Bend, and then the highway commercial that is located to the south of Big Bend. Some of the development types that are appropriate in this area are single family residential, attached residential, which is duplex, townhomes, and apartments, or live work units. So the purpose of the RMM zoning is to allow for small scale multifamily residential uses, which provide a transition from detached single family home districts and more intense districts, which would include multifamily projects or commercial districts. The zoning code also says that this district may be appropriate along major thoroughfares and at major intersections. So most of the uses in RMM are also allowed in R4, except RMM does allow multifamily dwellings, row houses, and two-family dwellings. So for this particular lot, the maximum density is 14 multifamily units per acre. And because it's about half an acre, they would be limited to 6 dwelling units. And the side yard setback, or the setbacks, are similar to R4 in that it's 8 feet for the side, 30 for the rear. And the height limitation is the same as in R4, which is 35 feet, but you are allowed 3 stories, whereas in R4, you're just allowed 2.5 stories. And the parking required would be 2 spaces per unit. So some of the review criteria for zoning map amendment are that the proposed amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan, other adopted city plans, and the stated purpose of the zoning code. That the use would be permitted on the property if it were reclassified, and that would be compatible with the uses permitted on other properties in the immediate area. And also the proposed amendment's not likely to result in significant adverse impacts on other property in the vicinity of the tract. So in the P&Z subcommittee report, they did note that the RMM designation was consistent with the comp plan and the existing zoning and land use, and with the RMM purpose. They cited that the property's on a busy arterial road, and that's part of the RMM purpose. And so they thought this was an appropriate context for this rezoning. The lots to the east are multifamily, and the lot to the west of the subject lot is unimproved. The lots immediately to the south are deep lots, and those houses are not close to the shared property line between these 2 properties. So we're here tonight with public hearing. The applicant is here if you have any questions for him, and then city council first and second readings.
Thank you, Amy. Where is the applicant? Do you have anything, is there anything you'd like to add before we go to questions?
I don't really have anything to add unless you guys have questions.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. And again, this is for a rezoning, just so everyone knows, there's no site plan, there's no proposed building or anything. This is simply to rezone this piece of property to allow what's allowed in our missing middle, so.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor, for
Thank
saying
you.
that. I should have said that
No,
up front.
okay, no, all right, great. Go to council questions. Questions from council. I'll go. Councilmember Dewey, anything from you?
No. thank
Okay.
you.
Councilmember Gibbons, anything from you?
The only thing that I was going to suggest to the applicant is they look at the town Geyer Grove development that was done across from Merrimack. That fit in really nicely with the neighborhood and
Okay.
was done very well. So
I actually, I was a little bit inspired by that. So I had known about that and I saw those, and it does pass. I think
Councilmember Litzo, anything?
Amy, I'm just wondering about, are there any sort of implications of potentially rezoning this to R-M when it's surrounded by R4? I mean, this is not an example of spot zoning, but what kinds of things could you imagine, or any kinds of implications?
Well, as I said, the lot immediately to the west is unimproved. I would imagine that those people might come in and decide to rezone as well. We do suggest that the RMM be on a major arterial. I know there are single-family homes across the street, and there are a little bit further to the west, but there's not any immediately in the area on Big Bend.
So, I mean, potentially more double Ms coming in the
Potentially.
future, and this would be an appropriate rezoning for that area, but not any, I don't know if this mic is working, or maybe I'm not close enough. Make
It's
sure I'm heard at the
It's
back of the
working.
room. Mr. Crater plans on redeveloping himself, or just to get? the
Yes, as far
rezoning?
as I know.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the properties would be consolidated.
Not necessarily, because there's 2 lots there.
Huh.
So he could I don't know the square footage of each lot, so I don't know for sure, but potentially he could put 3 on one lot and 3 on the other.
And there's sufficient acreage there in that almost half an acre for parking behind?
He will have to demonstrate that. We have not looked into
Okay.
that.
Already said what kinds of structures are possible. You already said, so the 3 stories, that's 3 stories, 35 feet maximum.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. That's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Sears?
I just wanted some, I guess, definition or clarification of a definition. So what's the difference between family residential and small scale multifamily?
Residential.
How do we know the difference?
It's limited to six units per lot. So even if you had a lot that was 1 acre, it's still limited to 6 units. Whereas the multifamily, you do get 14 dwelling units per acre, so you could have more dense on that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ward, anything?
No, Amy, thank you. You've given us quite a bit of information.
Thank you. Councilmember Zimmer?
No, thank you, Amy. Thank you.
Do we have anyone wishing to speak on this, David?
There are no requests at this time, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Well, with that, this public hearing is closed and this item will be on our new business agenda on May 19th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
We'll go to our next public hearing, which is a request for zoning code text amendment to add dog training homes as a special use in single-family residential districts and grant a special use permit to the property owner at 551 North Clay Avenue. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor. Again, Exhibit 1 is an affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in the St. Louis County. Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Exhibit 3 is a list of property owners to whom notice of this hearing has been sent. Exhibit 4 is the viewer map showing the property that is the subject of the public hearing as well as the surrounding properties. Exhibit 5 is a memorandum from Amy Lauer with the City Planner's Office to the Planning and Zoning Commission concerning the amendments to the text that would be required. And as we will discuss, the Planning and Zoning Commission was to address the text amendment first. And if the text amendment was approved, then the commission would then take up a motion to approve the special use permit. But as reflected in the minutes, the text amendment did not pass. And that's reflected in Exhibit 6, which is the report of the Planning and Zoning Commission dated April 7, 2022, which the commission failed to approve a zoning code text amendment to add dog training homes as a special use permit category in the single-family residential districts. Exhibit 7 is the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood.
Mr. Hawes, who will present this to the City Council?
City Planner Amy Lowry.
As Amy comes up, I'll repeat what I said earlier. This is a public hearing for the council to get information. There will be no vote taken tonight. And again, council will not express opinions either way on this. So Amy, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, just some background, especially for new council member Lutzo, who has not been here. Ms. Thiel submitted an application to amend the zoning code to add animal training as an accessory use in single-family residential districts. So this would allow a resident to operate a business on their property, training dogs similar to a home occupation, but with specific standards for dog training. And it went to planning and zoning in February, and by a vote of 7-0, they denied to amend the code to add an accessory use permitted with standards. And they also denied to review it as one that would require a special use permit. So in March, this came before City Council for a public hearing and for consideration. And the council also declined to amend the code to add it as an accessory use that would be permitted with standards, but requested that the matter be sent back to P&Z to consider an animal training home as an accessory use that would require a special use permit. And so that's what Planning and Zoning considered in April. And as Mr. Hessel reported, they failed to recommend that the zoning code be amended for a special use. And therefore, they didn't even consider a special use permit for Ms. Teal at this property. So the ordinance before you is for consideration, again, for an amendment to the zoning code to allow a dog training home as a special use in single-family residential neighborhoods. And if you do decide to amend the code, then the request is to look to award Ms. Thiel a special use permit at her address for her person in order to run a dog training home. So we had a definition that's in the ordinance of what a dog training home would be, and it's accessory use in a single family residential building related to the structure, the yard, for daytime care and training of dogs. And that would include training and handling for the purpose of behavior modification and enhancement, assistance to the disabled, or other training services. That would also allow daytime boarding of dogs being trained. And the P&Z had suggested we had this as an animal training home, but they had suggested that it be limited just to dogs. So even though the Planning and Zoning Commission declined to approve the amendment to the code, they did make amendments to the suggested language from staff and from the city attorney. So it gets really complicated, but if we were to approve the amendment to the code, it would go in our table 44.1, which is permitted uses, accessory uses and structures. It would go in alphabetical order. The S here would mean it was a special use permit. It would be permitted in the side and rear yard. And then the use specific standards would be contained in section 2545I. And those standards are as on the board up here. And the redlining is the recommendations to the original language that Planning and Zoning voted on, but then declined to adopt. So, so they wanted to add about including noise, odors, and traffics as some of the adverse effects that should not happen. As I said, they changed it to dogs, not animals. Talked about prohibiting it on federal holidays. And they did not want it to occur within a rental property. They did add about there should be no commercial signage on the site. And let's see what else was changed from before. They, instead of every 2 years, they suggested that the special use permit be applied for renewal every year unless determined otherwise by council. So those are some of the changes to the language. So when we look at a text amendment, the review criteria, and I'm sorry, my numbers got messed up. So there's 4 review criteria. It's consistent with comp plan, other adopted plans, and the stated purpose of the zoning code. It's necessary, desirable because of changing conditions, new planning concepts, or other social or economic conditions. It will promote this public health, safety, convenience, and general welfare, and it would correct an error in the application of the code as applied to the subject properties. And just to give background about where the applicant's property is, it's on North Clay, just south of Essex Avenue. And she does have a detached garage and makes use of the garage and the rear yard for the training. For the special use permit, there are 12 criteria that should be looked at. I'll just cite a couple of them. Number 7 is the proposed use will be harmonious with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and such use will not change the essential character of the area. And number 8 is the proposed use will not involve uses, activities, processes, material, equipment, and conditions of operation that will be detrimental to any person, property, or the general welfare by reason of excessive production of traffic noise, smoke, fumes, glare, or odors. So those are some of the criteria for looking at that. As I said, we're having the public hearing tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and the applicant's here as well for any questions or clarifications.
Thank you. Before we go to questions, does the applicant wish to say anything?
Good evening again. I just want to just kind of summarize because I know the timing in our Kirkwood, there's a lot more dog related programs that are coming or being proposed. And I just want to clarify again what my business is about. Again, this was started, even though I had a lifelong passion for dogs, this was started as a result of coming out of COVID. And I thoroughly believe almost every other house here in Kirkwood has a dog. And those that don't have a dog, it makes up for the neighbor who may have 2 or 3. And it just started as a need for this community that I felt fortunate to be blessed with neighbors and the community around and Kirkwoodians to bring their pups to me. And to be quite honest, I did not know for sure if it was going to work. I did not know if it was going to grow. I did not know if it was going to last. And it was thriving for over a year and a half. I went from 6 to some days 15, 17 dogs. I did not practice every day because we were out in the element. And I needed time. Again, my other priority is working with people and their dogs in their homes. So I know I'm asking for 5 days a week. That won't happen. I just can't do it. But what I'm saying is now I'm asking for 10 dogs. Realistically, that's 9 because I have a dog, so that's included, and he actually is the trainer. And so what the proposal is, again, the picture, it's not a day camp where 9 dogs will be dropped off and they'll be outside all day. I want to make it clear that these are dogs that I first work with their owners in their homes. And after a period, if it's still a need where they need to be socialized, they need to hear more elements of fire engines and lawnmowers and children on their bicycles and mailmen, then those are the dogs that will come into my program. So I do not have 10 new dogs 3 days a week. I have, most likely I've had 2 or 3 new, and then 6 or 7 that are more been socialized and it's more of a pack mentality that goes on to train the newer dogs. So some dogs can stay several months, and some dogs only need a month or 2. But regardless, I know the dogs coming in, and I make sure it's a compatible group, whether they're littles or doodles or larger dogs. I make sure that it's a pack that I can manage. And also I want to point out one of the conditions that that has really worked for me is my garage, which has, I think, a unique aspect to my training. It's a 3-car garage that there's no cars in it. So I have a lot of space, a lot of ability to train inside the garage. And I do a lot of structured training in there. As well as, again, the natural element of what I believe is important when we're exposing these dogs to real life conditions, so that these puppies in Kirkwood can then go on to our restaurants, are walking on our sidewalks, listening to music festivals, going around construction zones, peacefully, safely, as other passerby walker buyers can pass them. I have to say that I was compared at the last session, planning and zoning, to those having chickens in their yard. I can be clear. I am outside the entire time from what I'm asking, from 8 to 5 with the dogs. They are never alone. They do not cackle, or they're not all hours of the day. It's from 8 to 5. And if they do bark, which they do, especially it's a positive bark when they're excited, that is kept at a bare minimum. Certainly less than all the, I must say, all the lawn services that I have come to hear in my neighborhood, and construction that continually goes on from 7 o'clock a.m. well past 5. My dogs will never be over that decibel of work. So it's been a great opportunity in the past to have this and to work with owners and their dogs to help our community. And I hope I can continue. That's all.
Thank you.
I thank you very much again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have council comments or questions? Councilmember Dewey? Councilmember Gibbons, anything?
Just space, you mentioned that, and Amy, there's nothing in the ordinance that talks about the amount of space.
And I know that the major concern, primarily of planning and zoning, because I went there several times, is that it's opening Pandora's box, is what they kept saying to me. I have to say, I don't, and maybe you think I'm biased, but if other individuals can train dogs in a healthy, positive way, I don't see how that would be a negative to Kirkwood. I'm not talking at training 60, 70 dogs a day. I'm talking training 10 at the most. And so I know that the space, I think, is a great option, the stricter maybe to put in the garage space, not only for training, but also in case of weather elements. I've needed it in the winter, as they have, more so me. So that's the thought.
Thank you, Lynn. Councilmember Litzo, do you have anything for Amy?
Thing working.
Yes,
Okay.
just bring it closer. You need to bring it closer.
Oh, there. I don't know. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Amy, how do you define secondary to the use of the home? This would be considered secondary to the use when you're talking about potentially, and just looking at the zoning code amendment that we're talking about, not what Ms. Teal is proposing for her own personal thing, but secondary to use where you could have potentially 9 hours a day during the week and all of that, and you're incorporating detached garage space and yard space and all of that. Is that still considered secondary?
Yeah, because the primary use of the home is, for the occupants to live there.
Mhm.
So I know she's asked for, 40 hours a week, but, the rest of the time, living and sleeping, eating in the home.
And imagining, I mean, she was saying that she probably wouldn't, this would still be sort of a side project for her, but potentially for someone else in a different neighborhood, asking for what the, the text amendment now specifies.
That is correct.
Okay.
They would still have to come to you for a special use permit, but yes, we would anticipate that would be the time period that they could operate.
Right. So, and getting back maybe to what Liz was talking about, this is being proposed to be allowed in all single-family zoning districts right now. So there would
Correct.
be no requirement for a minimum lot size or anything. You could potentially have it on an R4 with a very small lot
That is correct.
with a potential of up to 10 dogs.
Correct.
We're talking about just dog training and I don't know, owner training on site, or that happens in the owner's actual home, the owner training
That
part?
would happen in the owner's actual home. We are only allowing up to one client at a time. So it's not like if the 10 dogs are there, that 10 people are there as well.
Okay. And I don't know why I wrote down daytime boarding. Is daytime boarding
Well,
an option for this?
It is in that, if the dog is there from, 8 to 5, I don't know how much time is being spent training. So
It's a
if
form of
we're-
boarding? Or
it's a
doggy
form of,
daycare or
exactly,
something? Mhm.
exactly. Because I don't imagine, Lynn had indicated that there is some rest period that the dogs may be resting. She's not training constantly, even though she will be with them.
So do any other municipalities in St. Louis County, do they have such a thing?
No.
And as far as, so.
As far as I know,
we're-
I
we're-
looked,
Yeah, we don't have, so not a minimum lot size requirement or anything? or
not proposed.
Fences or parking or?
There is a requirement that the yard be fenced.
Okay. How would a business license requirement and meeting county health department and all of that?
I don't know about the county health department, but this would operate like a home-based business where if you do get approved for a home occupation, we do send you to get a business license through the city. So she would be required to get a business license.
But similar to another animal related service, would she not also have to have some sort of certification or licensing or something?
The
regarding
Planning
to-
and Zoning Commission talked about that, but they weren't sure what that would entail. And in the end determined that, whoever is going for this person for the training would have to, see that dog is being trained the way they want the dog
So
to
it'd
be
up to
trained.
the owner
To be up to the owner,
to be satisfied
Yes.
with whatever.
right?
Okay. I mean, it sounds like she sort of employs the dog whisperer pack mentality of training of like the Caesar Milan sort of thing, but that wouldn't necessarily be what someone else in another neighborhood would necessarily employ
Correct.
to
Well,
to-
yes, I'm not
for
sure.
this dog training.
Right.
home
We're
thing.
not going to have specifications about what that training
Right.
would entail.
So it would be up to whomever in another potential future request for another proposal so the text requires that at least one resident be the operator.
Correct.
So you could have like a live-in adult son potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah. That's probably enough questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sears, anything?
We kind of touched on this and I want to make sure it did change or that that we all have the understanding. May require you to ask for Mr. Hessel's comments on this, but the way I understand it is that if that anybody who comes forward, this isn't a blanket approval that anybody can just now start the business. They have to come each time for approval.
Yes, everyone would have to get a special use permit, go through the process of having a public hearing and 2 readings on the ordinance for their special use permit.
Where they could explain their methods or whatever their thing is and see if everybody's satisfied with that. And that would include, you know, size of the lot and everything else. And that would all be presented and able to be commented on and analyzed in that hearing, right? And
That is correct, but John would have to weigh in on whether, you know, if someone came and had a smaller lot, whether we would be able to reject them
okay.
if it's not in the code itself.
And then it was also my understanding from I mean, that's fair. I understand that. Maybe we'll get that input. But then my final point of clarification is that my understanding was from our discussion last time that we could issue these specific to the individual and the property, so that if this were issued, the individual, when they sold their property, it didn't attach to that. So it's not like somebody could buy that house and have the same use. They'd have to come also.
Correct. That's number 13, which is special use permit shall be issued to the applicant only and shall be non-transferable to other occupants of the residence or subsequent owners of the property.
Right. And so I guess if the applicant were approved for this, then the applicant could move. And how would it work if the applicant wanted to do the same business at another property?
She would have to reapply.
Okay. And that could be analyzed all over again.
Correct.
Based on the new location.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Ward, anything?
Yeah, Lynn may have to answer this. The socialization that occurs with like dog walking, does that occur in her neighborhood or in the owner's residence or both?
I'll let her answer that.
And what does that typically look like? Number of blocks or?
Oh, when the dogs are at my house? Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, no. Dogs are at my house. They're. I meet with the dogs owners individually at their own home,
Okay,
their own homes, walking.
so you don't individually walk dogs in your neighborhood?
No, I do, but they don't come back to my house. Yes, because only I take a.
Okay.
With other dogs, with dogs.
Okay, so no, I understood that. It's not New York. You couldn't make a living if you were in New York then. So what would that typically look like? 2 blocks, 4 blocks?
Again,
Okay, all right, thank you. Question for Mr. Hessel. Could you
Yes,
give us a tutorial on special use permits?
How long you want me to go on?
I'm here all night.
Not long.
Oh, as we all know, within the zoning code, you have permitted uses, which means that anyone can, upon application, operate that particular kind of business. Then we identify special uses, and the courts have said that if you identify a special use category, you are suggesting that that category is acceptable unless, and it's the converse, unless it does not adversely affect traffic, does not adversely affect the character of the neighborhood, does not overtax public utilities and all the criteria that we look at. So everyone needs to recognize and understand that if you allow this as a special use permit within residential zoning districts, then anyone can apply. And then this, because you're encouraging people to apply for that particular use. And then based upon the particular property, you can adjust the kinds of conditions that would be applicable to that particular property. We obviously have 15 that would apply to all properties, but there may be more that could be added to a particular property.
Okay, that being said, and as Councilmember Sears made it clear that everyone would have to come and make an application, even if she moved, she'd have to reapply. My concern is, can you refuse and it hold up in court?
Now, you really like to ask the tough question. Obviously, you can deny a special use permit if in fact the council finds that that particular use at that location will in fact hit one of the criteria, will in fact cause traffic congestion, will in fact adversely affect the surrounding properties, will in fact adversely affect the character of the neighborhood. So, and the courts have become very strict on identifying those particular facts which give rise to a denial of the special use permit for the reason that I gave you, which is you've already identified that as a general proposition, this is okay, unless you make one of those negative findings. So it's, as we all know, it is certainly, the city council is entitled to exercise its discretion in the granting or denial of a special use permit, with the caveat being that when you deny it, you need to have specific facts for the basis of the denial. And obviously that's what planning and zoning struggled with. And I suspect that's what this city council is going to struggle with. And I'll just add as an aside, is Amy mentioned, Planning and Zoning Commission did discuss imposing a requirement that the applicant have some kind of training certification that would designate why this particular person is the right person to train dogs. And even by the applicant's own admission, there is no such training certification that we could find or that she could identify, so that we could say, this is the way that it must be done. Better put, this is the way you must be trained in order to then have dog training.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes, to add on to that, Amy, I wanted to ask about the review criteria for special use permits and the ones that were displayed on the screen. Based on this applicant, have there been any of these identified either by planning and zoning or by city staff that would call into question us moving forward with this? Are there any concerns about this particular business affected, by these review criteria?
So you're asking if staff or if planning and zoning? Well, planning and zoning had difficulty with it in general because they did think it was going to perhaps cause noise or traffic in excess of what would already be allowed in a residential neighborhood.
Has city staff identified any that might raise a red flag?
I mean, the same types
Same
of,
thing? Okay,
yeah.
all right. Since the applicant has been doing this in the past, have there been any registered complaints or comments about?
Yes, there were
Operation of
2
the
noise
business.
complaints within a 2-week period in October of 2021. And that's how it came to our attention that she was actually doing this dog training.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? David, I assume there's some people who want to speak. I want to make comment before you do. For speakers on this, I'm going to ask you, you must stick to the zoning parts. Last time we had a lot of people here and talked about how nice Lynn was, a really good trainer. We don't dispute that, but not tonight. You've got to talk specifically about the zoning or special use provisions. It's a land use thing. So and if someone does start going off on tangents, I will stop you. So David, we have anyone wishing to speak?
Yes, Mayor. Lindsay Turner.
I don't know if I'm going off, tell me what.
I will.
Okay. I guess what I had have to offer, because I do live directly next door to Lynn, does reflect whether the property has a noise pollution or smell or anything along those lines. I can assure you that it does not. My kids, one of whom is here today, go over to Lynn's yard all the time, play, which I obviously would not allow them to do if there was a problem with filth or anything like that. They roll on the grass, they do everything. It's not a problem. I can also say, as far as noise goes, we did have a petition signed from our neighbors. And when I went and spoke with somebody across the street in regard to the noise, he didn't even know that Lynn was doing it. And I said, we're just trying to get a petition signed so that Lynn could continue with this business. And he said, well, I thought that maybe something was going on, but I had no idea because it had not been a problem for the neighborhood. So I've been here from the beginning, the first meeting that Lynn was at. I'm still here because we're still hoping that you allow it. So.
Okay, you stayed on.
Doreen Dodson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Hessel, ladies and gentlemen, the City Council. Good to see you, John. I was here previously and am here again. I live at the corner of West Bodley and Clay. Our backyard extends all back to the condominiums, if anyone's familiar with that area. So I'm exactly sort of catty corner from Lynn's property. I'm one of those people who was not aware there was anything there for a year and a half. I became aware only when we adopted a dog and had trouble walking her, and a neighbor said, oh, well, what about up the street? To specifically the noise and traffic, there is not any. We've lived there 43 years. There's no traffic parking. The yard is set way back. You don't hear any noise. As the previous speaker said, we had a written petition. Everyone in the neighborhood signed it because the noise is simply not an issue. There's no order. And speaking directly, I guess, Mr. Ward, to your question about walking, Ms. Thiel did walk my dog. I live at the corner, and so that's what my rescue little chocolate lab needed. And so there is walking, but it's one dog from the house. I just happen to live at the corner. So with all the criteria that you have here, Lynn Thiel complies with it already. There are complaints that were mentioned. My understanding was that what happened, there was a person visiting from out of town who was walking down our street, down Clay, that is, walked by, heard the dogs barking, because when someone walks by, sometimes they will see the person and bark at the street. It's way down the driveway. And she filed a complaint and said that she felt threatened by the barking dogs, who have a very high fence, a lovely decorative fence that's in the neighborhood. And the rest of us felt very sorry because we're the folks that live there, and there is no noise and no traffic, no odor, no concerns that any of the special use requirements or in the zoning are violated. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Ann Sido. Alice Sido. Ashley Boomer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, everyone else that's assembled. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak this evening. My understanding is that before this council gets to a consideration of Lynn and her specific application, that first dog training homes as a special use needs that the granting of this amendment needs to meet the criteria of 25-17E2 of the zoning and subdivision code, and that's been specifically referenced in many of the planning and zoning meetings. And so I would like to draw your attention to subsection 2 and subsection 3 and articulate how dog training homes qualifies. So the proposed amendment is necessary or desirable because of changing conditions, new planning concepts, or other social or economic conditions. And I believe it is very easy. Thank you. Very easy for this group to find that there have been substantial changing conditions as well as social conditions that have changed in the last 2 years with the advent of COVID. I checked with 2 local Kirkwood veterinary hospitals, and they estimate that their numbers of dogs have doubled since COVID. They say that their national boards indicate that 70% of dog owners got a second dog, and they can no longer, with their current staff, even handle the number of dogs that they have. If that gives you an indication of here in Kirkwood, how much we have increased and how those changing conditions have happened. The second one is subsection 3, which says that the proposed amendment will promote the public health, safety, convenience, and general welfare. I think it's really hard to argue that better trained dogs in our community would not generally increase the general welfare and overall public health of our neighborhoods. The animals are now our neighbors. They are part of our community. And I can't tell you how many people ask me, where do you send your dog so that they can also have a well-behaved dog? As part of that, if I could have permission to approach, I did hand this out the last time. I'm also a 3-time participant here. May I approach? As further evidence of that general welfare, I know that you have received the petition, which has 27 signatures on it, as well as 28 individual letters from residents of Kirkwood supporting the idea of dog training homes. Regarding, and at the 3 public hearings that we've had, everyone that has come up and has commented to you has had positive things about the idea of having dog training homes and the value that they add. I also just want to address the review criteria. I took the liberty of analyzing those 28 letters, and of them, all 28 have a statement in there about how it increases the welfare and benefits the welfare of the community. 22 of them specifically speak to the character of the neighborhood and how adding this would help. 22 say that there have been no noise concerns, and 19 say no traffic concerns. The document that you have in front of you, I just want to highlight that Lynn is the blue X and that all the green X's are just in a 2-block radius of those people that are supportive of her specific application. That's the 2-block radius around her. They are her actual neighbors that support her in this effort. And so I just encourage you to please vote affirmatively tonight to both add dog training homes as a special use and to approve Lynn. It's an opportunity to improve our community and our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sloan Turner.
You can pull that down. You can pull it down.
I've been to Lynn's house many, many times. It's not dirty at all. My siblings love it just like me, and I really hope you guys vote in favor of Lynn. Thank you.
Leslie Moylan.
I'm sorry that I'm following a lawyer and then Sloan. My name's Leslie. I live on the other side of Lynn from Sloan and Lindsay, and just wanted to come here. Thank you so much for your time. One concern I wanted to address is that folks have thought maybe there's going to be a deluge of people wanting to do this job. I think it takes a special person to do this, and it's a lot of work. Lynn's not kidding when she says she's out there all the time. So I just want you to know that this isn't the kind of special use that's going to jump off the page. And a lot of people like, hey, this is something like some scam I want to pull and just watch, TV and eat chips all day. So I don't think that that's a really valid worry. And I think your yearly evaluation and your stipulation that you can revoke the privilege at any time is going to help take care of that. That would nip that in the bud. And as far as noise, I work from home. I love to work outside on my beautiful screened in back porch. And I can tell you when there are 10 dogs there, that was no problem whatsoever. I kind of knew when word was getting around, because when she got up to those 15 or 17, I thought, you know what, there's times that they get all excited because a new one comes, but that doesn't happen when there's 10. So I think you're really wise with that number. And again, Ashley said it really well. I was going to talk about the community building. We come together because we can talk about Lynn. I meet people who are like, oh, you live next door to Lynn and and it's great. And I know their dog, but I had never met them. And it's positive for the kid on my side of the fence as well. A very isolated teen boy during the pandemic, and not a live-in son, but a neighbor that lives next door and would hop over the fence and serve as an apprentice during a really isolated time when we were experiencing such different changes. And then lastly, I just want to remind you, Kirkwood is a dog town. Many of us have already said that. No joke, I do call Lynn the dog whisperer of Kirkwood, and I do think there's only one Cesar Millan and there's only one Lynn. Thanks.
Donna Kirtland.
Hello, I'm actually here for the next proposition, but I happen to be Lynn's neighbor. I've never met her before. My backyard and hers join, if not exactly catty corner. And I had no idea that we had a dog trainer in our neighborhood. I checked with my husband, I checked with my 2 teenage sons. Nobody had a clue. So they're all right. I have no vested interest in this because I don't even know her, but I had, no idea that we had this going on in our neighborhood. And, I really think we should consider her proposal because it's not a detriment to any of the neighbors. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Donna.
I do not show any additional requests for comment at this
All
time.
right, very good. Anything else from council or Mr.
The only
Hessel?
thing I'd like to note, Mayor and Council, is that because planning and zoning recommended a denial, that would require a supermajority to grant the text amendment.
That means that, 5, normally it's 4, but 5 would have to vote in favor.
That is correct.
All right, thank you. Well, with that, this public hearing is adjourned, and this will be on our new business agenda at our next meeting on May 19th. Thank you all for All right, and we'll go to our third public hearing of this evening, which is a request for a special use permit, animal facility minor with outdoor use and site plan review for Kenwood Resorts, 10936 Manchester Road. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor. Again, Exhibit 1 is an affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in St. Louis County. And Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication verifying the notice of public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Exhibit 3 is a list of property owners to whom notice of this hearing has been sent. Exhibit 4 is the viewer map showing the subject of the property that is subject of the public hearing as well as surrounding properties. Exhibit 5 is the subcommittee report of the Planning and Zoning Commission dated April 6, 2022. Exhibit 6 is the report of the Planning and Zoning Commission, in which the commission recommended approval of a special use permit for an outdoor use for exercise yards at an animal facility minor and site plan review for Kenwood Pet Resorts at 10936 Manchester Road. And Exhibit 7 is the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood.
Thank you, John. Mr. Hawes, who will present this to City Council?
The city planner, Amy Lowry.
Good evening again. Just to orient where this request is being made, this is the building where Keller Williams Realty is currently occupying. It's zoned B3. It's about a 10,000 square foot building on about a 1 acre lot. Daytime boarding is considered an animal facility minor, and it's a permitted use in the B3 zoning district. However, an outdoor use requires a special use permit and site plan review. There are 34 required parking spaces for this animal facility, and they have 48 provided. They will be removing a tree, which is right here, on site, but they'll be replacing it up here in the northwest corner. And they are also moving the current trash enclosure to the east side of the property over here. They will have approximately 10 employees and 40 to 60 dogs with daily operating hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So this is just the site plan. They are proposing 3 exercise yards on the west side of the property. The yards will allow the employees to bring dogs outside on a leash and under supervision with 2 dogs maximum in each yard and 6 dogs maximum at one time. Just a little better view of the yards that are being proposed. And as I said, this is the tree that's going to be removed. So the yard in the northernmost part is actually currently grass, and the other 2 are currently impervious surface. All 3 areas will have antimicrobial synthetic turf, and therefore the applicant is decreasing the amount of impervious surface on the site. Just some site photos from back when it was snowy, and some views that the applicant has provided for what the outdoor yards will look like. So view from Manchester Road, view from the intersection with Harrison. This is the existing conditions, and then the view from Harrison with the exercise yards, which will actually just be fenced yards, and there will be some retaining wall. Another view of the existing conditions and the asphalt that will be removed, and the west facade from Harrison again. A view from North Harrison directly on, and from the apartment building on the south side. This is an existing fence, and the proposed fencing from the yard will match. And then an overhead view of the 3 exercise yards. As I said, that they are decreasing the amount of impervious surface on the lot, which will reduce the overall amount of stormwater runoff. There's a detail here of the synthetic turf with rock, and then prepared soils that the water and liquid waste will go through. They do have an overflow path from these areas. If there's any overflow, will go behind the building to a stormwater inlet right here. And the applicant provided a drainage analysis indicating that the runoff differential would be reduced to MSD. And MSD said that due to the project's small disturbance and the reduction in runoff with the removal of the impervious surface, they wouldn't require a formal plan submittal, and that they didn't anticipate any significant changes to the overall drainage for the site and to the neighboring properties. So in city staff's opinion, the proposed project will not contribute to the pre-existing stormwater issues in the area. And that issue should not affect the review of this project. MSD did say that they have a project identified to help with the local flooding issues, but it's not funded at this time. The applicant also did provide a noise study and with the proposal for having no more than 2 dogs at a time in the outdoor yards. And the conclusion was that even if there were 6 dogs in the yards barking at the same time from the property line, and with the proposed fencing, the ambient noise would be between 55 and 64 decibels. And the conclusion was that the dog barking sound would be within the ambient range and masked by the traffic from Manchester Road during the daylight hours. We're still working on getting an approved lighting plan. So that's one thing that we need to work out before you consider the first reading on the ordinance. And again, the review criteria for a special use permit. One of the criteria is that the special use shall have suitable landscaping, screening, and fencing whenever deemed necessary by planning and zoning and the city council. And also that the proposed use will be harmonious with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and such use shall not change the essential character of the area. Another review criteria is that the proposed use will not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, and conditions of operation that will be detrimental to any person's property or the general welfare by reason of excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, or odors. The conditions of note from the Planning and Zoning Commission that are reflected in the proposed ordinance is the hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Sunday. The vehicle entrance on the northwest corner of the site was going to be restricted to serve as a entrance only. Again, the lighting plan needs to be updated before the first reading. And the proposed artificial turf is going to be installed over the pervious area. The tree that is going to be removed will be replaced in the northwest of the site. And that, as noted in the acoustical study, the fencing for the outdoor exercise area shall have a sound transmission class of 20 or greater rating to meet the noise reduction that's assumed in that study. Also, the restriction of the 2 dogs per yard, no more than 6 dogs outside at a time, and such dogs will be with an employee and on a leash. So those were the significant conditions that are in the ordinance, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have, and the applicant is here as well.
Before we go to questions, does the applicant wish to say anything?
Good evening, Mayor and the members of City Council. My name is Fiju Job. I'm the Chief Development Officer for Kenwood Pet Resorts, and I oversee all construction and development projects. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I also want to make sure I recognize Jonathan and Amy for their assistance over the last several months. Their responsiveness to our phone calls and many, many emails has been very much appreciated. I'm here tonight to introduce you to Kenwood and the services we look to provide to Kirkwood residents. I plan to cover 4 topics today. The first, I'd like to give a brief history of Kenwood Pet Resorts in the St. Louis area. Number 2, I would like to give an overview of the services. Three, I'd like to review the proactive measures that we've taken to enhance our application. And finally, I'll close with introducing our team that is here to answer any questions. A little bit of history to start. Donald Danforth Jr. opened the first Kenwood Pet Resorts in St. Louis in 1974. The Danforth family heritage in the pet industry began much before that, when Donald's grandfather, William H. Danforth, founded Ralston Purina in 1894. Since that time, under the guidance of the Danforth family and Alan Jones, Kenwood has grown to 9 locations in the St. Louis area, which includes Baldwin, Chesterfield, Page and Lindbergh, South County, St. Peters, Union, St. Louis City, Maryville, Illinois, and O'Fallon, Illinois. It remains a Danforth family-owned business with Donald Danforth's son, Chris Danforth, serving as CEO and chairman of the board. Next, let's dive into the operation of this location. The proposed Kenwood location on Manchester Road will focus on Kenwood's Train and Play program. This is a concept similar to what we built in O'Fallon, Chesterfield, and St. Louis City in the past few years with great success. It consists of training, day camp, and grooming. We are not doing boarding at this location. We are not doing outdoor day camp at this location. While dogs are in our care at this location, they will enjoy one of the following services: sessions with their trainer in a dedicated indoor training room, indoor group play sessions, day camp, and grooming of their pet. As Jonathan and Amy outlined earlier, our proposed use is a permitted use under city ordinances. Since we are proposing to offer 3 outdoor exercise yards that total 1,430 square foot, we are required to secure this special use permit. The fact that the dogs will be in our care up to 12 hours, and because it is healthy for them, our trained employees will escort our pets while on leash outdoors in one of the 3 exercise yards. All 3 outdoor exercise yards will have synthetic turf called Sin Lawn Pet Platinum, which is the highest grade of commercial pet turf. This turf includes sanitized antimicrobial technology at the molecular level. This technology helps eliminate pet odors and provides long-lasting protection against bacteria, and has been proven to reduce the ammonia odor from urine by 99%. This facility will be cleaned and disinfected continuously. In addition, we require that all pets that enter the facility to be vaccinated. All pet waste will be cleaned immediately. The exercise yards will be disinfected daily. The disinfectant solution we use destroys any odor-causing bacteria. The main reason that we like to offer our services at this location is to better serve our customers in this area. Specifically, we currently service over 2,000 residents in Kirkwood and the surrounding area. I can confidently say our current customers will enjoy the services that we plan to offer at this location and the shorter drive time to this location. As we heard earlier from numerous individuals, dog training is in high demand in the Kirkwood area, and I'm confident that we can help satisfy that need. As we've grown into new areas, 5 new locations in the past 5 years, being a good neighbor is something that has been and remains something that is very important to us. We would not have been able to grow as much as we have and have been in business for almost 50 years if being a good neighbor wasn't a priority for us. As a result, I wanted to highlight the proactive steps that we took before we made our application to the P&Z Commission in early March. 1, we decided to limit the operation hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Number 2, we proactively agreed to remove 950 square foot of impervious asphalt and replace it with soil, bring it back to grade through the installation of a layer of clean stone, and then install the previous synthetic pet turf that I referenced earlier. Number 3, we commissioned an independent noise study from a respected sound engineering firm to understand the impact to the surrounding area and use that information to limit ourselves to a maximum of 2 dogs in any of the play yards at any given time. Number 4, we agreed to install multiple site-proof acoustically rated fencing. Again, these steps were not required when we submitted our application, but we felt it was important to show the value that we place on a collaborative approach with P&Z and being a good neighbor. For reference purposes, our Chesterfield location, which has identical operations to what we're proposing here, is in the same retail center as the St. Louis County Revenue Office, and we've never had a complaint about noise in the 5 years that we've been in that space. In addition, I personally reached out to Ms. Paula Savarino and the Bradford Square HOA Board, hopefully our future neighbors, on February 15th and met with them on February 21st. My colleague, Jen Van Garderen, Chief Operating Officer of Kenwood, and myself met to introduce ourselves and share our plans for the proposed facility. They were very appreciative that we took the time to meet with them and were very welcoming of us, which was kind of them. I've chatted with Ms. Savarino several times since that initial meeting to answer follow-up questions. On a separate note, unrelated, I promised the Bradford Square HOA Board that I would share their desire to have a Starbucks location closer to their home. So I wanted to make sure I brought that up to you. So it was on the record that Starbucks is in high demand in that area by Bradford Square residents and myself for that matter. Finally, before I conclude my time here, I want to introduce the team that is here today to support our application, specifically Cameron Lucan, President of Wonderlook Surveying and Engineering, who completed the site survey for us. Phil Wentz, Principal of McClure Engineering, who executed the sound study for us. Josh Rosh, acoustic expert from McClure Engineering, and David Hutkin, who represents the ownership group of the building. Our team is ready to answer any technical questions or follow up with any aspect of our services. Thank you for taking the time to hear my presentation, and I'd like to open up for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Go ahead and take a seat for now. We'll see where the council wants to go with questions. I assume we have council questions. Councilmember Dewey, anything? Okay. Councilmember Gibbons, anything?
I just wanted to ask, well, a question for you.
Sure.
2 questions for you. Are there windows in the back of that building? I went by.
Yes, there are. I believe a couple. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yes.
Okay. They mentioned the Chesterfield location. License officer, but or revenue office, do you have any location that has residents this one in? Sorry. As this one would.
No, but the sound study accounted for that. So, and I can bring up Phil to give you the details on how he did the sound study. But the way we did the sound study is that we accounted for the distance from our location to our neighbors and put that same sound monitor at the Chesterfield location, assuming it was the same distance. And that's how we came up with our sound analysis, or Phil did at least.
Okay. And then a question for Amy. The special use permit, would it have a limit on it, like what we were talking about with the dog training in homes for a year? Would this have any kind of limit?
No.
Time limit? Thank you.
Councilmember Litzo?
So, fence that you're proposing is 6 foot high
Correct.
and the existing
Excuse me,
fence.
Councilmember Litzo, they can't hear you in back, so pull it really close to your.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if this thing is actually, is it?
Yeah, you just
Okay,
have to
because
talk.
to me, it doesn't sound.
You got to really talk, you got to talk really close to it.
Okay. So you showed us a product sheet of Chesterfield smooth finish.
Correct.
fence. Is that basically what you're proposing? That's what is there already and it would match, or is this a different one?
We haven't finalized the exact type of fence, but the sound rating is the key point. So
Okay.
that particular fence that's within our submission has that STC 20 sound rating. So, which is why we put that restriction on ourselves, and it's a condition. Any fence will have that sound rating and will match in style to the nearby fence.
So it would match.
Correct.
The existing fence, which is, I'm sorry, I haven't been over to the site. Is it like a white vinyl?
Correct.
Okay. And the sound study, did they discuss it all, possibly putting an 8-foot fence versus a 6-foot fence?
And I'd like to bring up Phil here. I think, and maybe Amy can answer this as well. There's a restriction based because of our retaining wall and our height of our fence, that there's a maximum height that we can have. And so the retaining wall is the base. We put the 6-foot vinyl fence, site-proof vinyl fence on top. I believe that caps our
So that essentially raises it to
to the max.
7.5 feet or whatever?
Correct. So the
Okay.
maximum allowable.
Okay, because I think we do have 8-foot sound abating fences. in
But
Kirkwood.
so the 6-foot plus the 2-foot of retaining wall.
Oh, 2 feet
yep,
retaining wall.
correct.
I thought I had read 1.5 feet. I'm sorry. Let's see, what else? Was there any discussion at planning and zoning about possible landscaping along that 6-foot fence along the western boundary there?
There was not.
Okay. Can you talk about parking, or maybe this is an Amy question? What does that, for this particular use, what is the parking requirement? Because it appears from the site plan that there's an awful lot of parking there, and I'm not sure if it's overparked. I realize that some parking is going to be taken out of use to allow for the emergency, or
Correct. There's a couple
Around the-
spots in the rear that, per our discussions with the fire marshal, that we've agreed to remove to have better, to meet the expectations of the fire apparatus.
Mhm. I was just wondering if it's overparked, if some of that impervious asphalt could be reclaimed as green space or whatever.
I'm not sure I understand your question. I'm sorry.
Convert some of the asphalt parking to planted islands.
We feel like we'll need those parking spots.
Okay. Well, that's why I wanted to clarify if you're overparked, how much you actually need, et cetera.
It's hard to know at this moment, right? How many the traffic and how many cars will come at any given moment. So I'm hesitant to make that adjustment without knowing some more concrete facts about our traffic at there.
Okay.
I was just saying, the rate is 1 space per 3,000 square feet. 300 square feet, and there's 34 required, but there's 48 provided. And you are right, they are eliminating spaces on the east side of the lot because fire marshal asked for more access over there.
Okay. There's definitely not a deficit of parking, right? So so you gave us products, information sheets on the 2 disinfectants that are going to be used.
Correct.
So I'm wondering about the outdoor space. You talked about the antimicrobial and all of that with the turf and everything, but it will be treated with a disinfectant.
Correct.
And Amy said that there's going to be any possible drainage would go actually into the storm drain.
So it's actually going to go into the soil. So we're removing the impervious area and bringing it back to soil, putting a layer of clean rock, and then putting the turf on top. So
Overflow, stormwater overflow, let's say in a rain or whatever, would potentially end up in the storm water system, not the sanitary sewer.
Correct. And I asked Cam to come up to speak to the details, who's our engineer, of record on this project, if you have more specific questions on that.
Well, I'm just wondering because they talk as far as, and I don't know which one of the products this is, but it talks about disposal and that it should actually go into the sanitary sewer. They talk about toxicity to marine life. So I'm just wondering if it would in fact go into the stormwater system or if it's directed into the sanitary sewer.
I'm going to bring Cam up to answer that
Here,
question.
Amy's right there. yeah.
So it's outdoors, so it cannot go into the sanitary. It has to go into the storm.
And there's no concerns about toxicity of these products, even in a dilute amount of getting into the storm drain.
This is the same product that we use at all of our other locations. And it's been designed for the pet care industry. There's been never a concern with that, to my knowledge.
Okay, and no state or county requirements.
Correct.
It's all past EPA or whatever.
Correct. We're regulated by the state of Missouri, by the agricultural department as well.
Okay. So in this outdoor project has provoked you to come into code compliance with outdoor lighting, any other changes that need to be done as far as coming up to current code with the exterior? That's it. Let's see. That's all the questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sears, anything?
How for long a period of time do you expect an individual dog to be in the yard play area?
We're from, I believe it's 7 to 9 minutes at any given moment, escorted on leash by a staff member.
Councilmember Ward, anything?
Yeah, just two quick questions. One, is it feasible to keep the dogs indoors all day?
It's not healthy to keep the dogs indoors at all times.
And that would be what? What's the unhealthy portion of that?
What's that?
What's unhealthy about them being indoors?
We found dog behavior as well. We found that dogs excel when they have an ability to relieve themselves or walk outside in conjunction with an indoor day camp and training setup.
When it's inclement, do they still go out? If it's raining, downpouring?
They
snow,
do.
Sleet?
Yep,
Yeah.
every location.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Just a question about your other similar locations. You mentioned Chesterfield. How many dogs do you have at that location, sir?
I don't have that information in front of me. Sorry.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
David, do we have anyone wishing to speak?
We do, Mayor. Lisa Nelson.
Evening.
My name is Lisa Nelson. I reside at Bradford Square, 1030 North Harrison. My condo is in the northwest corner, and I will look down at this, where I look down at this pretty grassy area with 3 trees. And I bought this condo recently in the last 2 years for my retirement, getting prepared for my retirement. And I am very, very concerned about the noise. I know there was a sound study done in the dead of winter. I'm a very proud dog owner, lifelong dog owner. I have taken my dog, who's now 2, to 4 different dog daycares. And I'm very familiar with dog daycares. I drove around the back of No Leash Needed today where Willie, my dog, was there. I was picking him up. And you can hear dogs barking over the traffic. There's cars zooming in and out, picking up their dogs. I have neighbors that are very concerned, that have small children, that they wrote emails and letters. I don't know if you got them, but there's 2 houses. Each house has 4 little kids. I I also talked to several realtors, and they said it would be harder for us to sell our condos because the condo below me went for sale, and I was trying to get my friend to buy it. And the first thing she said was, "Do you hear Manchester?" And I said, "Yeah, we kind of do. When you close the doors, I have new windows and doors, so they're pretty good. You don't hear it." But now it's going to be, the realtor said, I spoke to 3 different realtors, and they said, now they're going to say, "Oh, are those dogs? Can you hear those dogs?" And I know that we'll be hearing the dogs. And if you notice the back of our condominium building, it's all balconies. There's a lot of retirees there. I have several of my Harrison Avenue, everybody wave, who's here for that are opposed to this. And also, one thing I'd like to say about our board, we really don't have a board. We have Paula kind of runs the show. She takes care of the money. And she told us all months ago this was a done deal. And even though I received notice, I thought, oh, it's a done deal. And then I was speaking with a few people, and they said, no, it has not yet gone before the council. Otherwise, I think there'd be a lot more people here because we are all very, very concerned about the noise. And also, if you notice in the building that the first floor is a garage, the people start living on the second floor. So where that fence is, that doesn't block out any sound. Let me see what else I have to hit here. Also, I believe that every dog facility that I've been to has had an outside dog run. I would not take my dog to a place that did not have an outside free play dog run. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you. But I think that in the future, even though Fiji told me that, oh no, those walls won't come down, I believe they will. They will, because I mean, dogs have to run outside and they're in there, 6-7 hours a day. So, but I'm very, very mostly concerned. We're less than 50 feet away from each other. The whole back of that building is nothing but balconies, and we're going to hear it. There's no windows, by the way, but it's like cinder block. It's not cement. And there's also a flooding issue that we've had. We've had 22 cars. They've been resolving it. And so far with these rains we've had, there's not been a problem. Kirkwood's been really good working with us, and Ken, who's kind of helps us. But I'm concerned when they start moving the land around, it's going to be, flooding again. Anyway, but I'm very concerned about the noise and my beautiful 3 trees. I'm not a tree hugger, but I do sit on my balcony, and it's nice to see the birds and walk our dogs. And a lot of us are very upset about this, but we thought months ago it was a done deal that we couldn't fight it, but we're all still very, very upset about it. So good to see you all. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you.
Nope, we don't clap. We do not do that, and I'm serious. This is not a pep rally or anything. Go ahead, David.
Chris Blair.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I've lived in that condominium for over 36 years. I did not move in to live there permanently, but I live there permanently. I was the young one when I moved in, and I have become the senior, not the seniorest member, but the senior member, a senior member. And so I want to acquaint you with our community a little bit. I want to read, I'll start with a letter from a neighbor that was not able to come. She lives across the street. And again, yes, I think if we'd have known that and had some leadership, we'd have sounded a little more like the group that came before, and we'd have had lots of letters and they'd have been signed, and our neighborhood is coming together because of this. So we'd like to thank you. It has been a very transient neighborhood for years and years and years. And It's not anymore. We don't have very many smaller homes left, and almost all the big homes are filled with kids. And so this comes from Jessica Mask, who lives at 1041 North Harrison Avenue. To whom it may concern, I'm a single mom of 4 kids. From 821, I've lived across the street from the proposed Kenwood. I strongly oppose this business coming in. Not only do I work from home and the noise of the dogs outside, but also the traffic that would add to an already busy street. It's too much for a quiet family neighborhood. Please do not approve them coming in. I enjoy my kids being able to play out front and ride their bikes, and think more traffic would not allow that to happen safely. The person who's going to build the house next to her, we had the chance to talk to him this afternoon, and he wished he'd have been able to come, but he was not. And he too is equally concerned. I would like to acquaint you with our neighbor, the community in that building. We look like one building, but 40% of the residents have lived there for over 15 years. 30% have lived there for over 20. 21% have lived there for over 25. 10% have lived there for over 35. The vast majority of newer residence units were purchased from residents who had lived in them for over 10 years. So it is a sought after community, and it is a community. 28 of those units will be directly listening to this. I should also tell you, to acquaint us, 75% or more of our residents work from home or are retired, so we're home all day. So dogs available outside from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., 7 days a week, does not allow for very many hours of assured quiet, which is one nice thing that we do have. The traffic, it's kind of interesting. What does it sound like? It really sounds a bit like waves on a shore. If you go sit there and listen, it does not sound like shh. I tried to tape it, but I don't think it would convey, but what it really sounds like, because the traffic goes and then it stops, and it goes and then it stops. So it sounds a bit like waves on a shore. And so add dog barking to that, and it will not be masked. This sound study says that dogs bark from 60 to 100 decibels. And so they chose 80 as the average to use for the study. I would suggest, since they want to be really good neighbors, and we're going to be their first real neighbors, that we do the whole sound study, go back and look at it again and use 100. Because the average comes from loud and soft, and I'm not concerned about the soft, but it's those loud that we're going to be hearing over and over. The traffic, those 60 dogs are going to be dropped off in the morning and picked up in the evening. So that's a minimum of 120 cars. I'm not adding any cars for grooming, not adding any cars for training, and not adding any cars to that for staff. But so just that's 120 cars coming across. Please come look at Manchester Road. For a long time, I've been willing to make a left across there. I don't anymore, not in the morning. I don't enter making a left at night. I come back, I come in through Wilson. And so my concern is either there's going to be a major traffic disaster, because what we've had for 40 years is cars that came and parked and stayed. They didn't have to come in and go out. We didn't have much traffic. And so the cars are going to, in order to avoid that, they're going to use Simmons, they're going to use Wilson, they're going to use Harrison, and there's more and more kids on that. And so I would really ask that the mission of this city of Kirkwood is to enhance the quality of life for current and future generations of Kirkwood residents through strong leadership, effective stewardship, and exceptional service. And so to fulfill this mission, I would ask that you deny the special use permit. There are better places I love dogs, love animals, worked at the zoo, been a teacher, love kids. I just drove behind where Shop and Save was, and I was like, do you see the amount of green space back there? All I can see is happy dogs, which would then make us really happy too. So there are better places. There is a really good, the no leash needed doggy daycare, which is new and was approved, and it's at 902 South Kirkwood Road. There are roofs on all of those. And so I would say, could we have roofs? Please. So please keep our community for us. And thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Meskel.
Hello, everyone. I received a call from some of the owners of Bradford Square condominiums to speak on their behalf. Roughly 8 or 9 years ago, I had a client come to us and want to put a doggy daycare. I think some of the council members and city attorney were present at those meetings. And it's eerily similar what I'm hearing. And by the way, you guys did a very nice presentation. I think they have a great plan. Our clients went through the exact same scenario that they're going through right now. Okay. They did everything. They checked every box. They did everything the city required for us to put in a dog daycare with outside outside run. The Planning and Zoning Committee voted 6-2 to approve it. It was called the Watering Bowl. They're still in existence. I think they have 3 or 4 locations. Okay. I think they were pretty excited at the time that 6-2 vote. Okay. Well, I stepped in front of city council. They did also. And things changed pretty fast. Okay. The property we had was on Prospect Avenue, which is 100% zoned commercial. There was a few houses that were rental homes. Okay. And then there was a neighbor just to the west that was against it. Okay. We did the engineering for the sound studies. We had fences. We had everything checked, every box checked. We could come to the city council meeting. It was voted unanimously denied because of the sound. Unanimously denied. We were shocked. I think what they're saying as neighbors, and from what I'm hearing, they have balconies. They're going to be outside on those balconies. The dogs are going to bark louder than what their engineering study says. I have a dog. I love dogs. I know the way it works. I think from my history doing this, unanimously denied. I think that's your answer. Thank you.
Steve Dowd.
Good evening. I'm Steve Dowd. I live at 1030 North Harrison Avenue, overlooking the building in question. Also, I volunteered in the past with the Green Tree Festival, working on Kylie Christinell's traffic team. I'm a dog lover, and years ago, I used Kenwood dog training for a puppy obedience class. That being said, this location being adjacent to our 39-unit residential condominium and the 32-unit Clay West condominium and other single-family residences is not appropriate for a dog daycare facility with outdoor runs. I'm asking the city council to deny this special use permit. Kenwood has a new marketing plan, which is all roses and rainbows, but the reality would be quite different. We expect the barking noise caused by 40 to 60 dogs, both outside and inside, to create a public nuisance noise violation currently prohibited by Kirkwood. Also, our property value would be adversely affected by the incessant barking. For these reasons alone, you should deny PZ 1422. Kenwood would be better located in an industrial park or a strip mall with no nearby residences. PZ Commissioner Ron Evans stated recently regarding Ms. Thiel's backyard dog training, which is 1 block over. I do not think this is a good precedent for Kirkwood to set. It's opening Pandora's box. This is a valuable service, and there is a place for that in an industrial or business environment, not in a residential environment, to which I say ditto to Kenwood. You may have read about the sound test conducted at their Chesterfield location, which has no adjacent residential dwellings. The sound test was not a fair representation of reality. When was it conducted? In the dead of winter, freezing temperatures. Human handlers and dogs were less likely to spend any time outside. Hence, they recorded 1 dog bark during this test. They would also have us believe that the auto traffic noise from Manchester Road would conceal the barking dog noise, but this does not ring true. Kirkwood would be much better served by a sound test conducted by an independent firm on a much warmer day. I think the results would be different. Most importantly, this business does not meet our criteria listed in the special use permit. Article 2, 25-20, D4, item 3, whether such use will adversely affect the character of the neighborhood. And item 4, whether such use will affect the general welfare of the community. Yes, we will be adversely affected. Finally, this is similar to the Harmony Home situation that you faced last year, which was a nice idea, but the wrong place. We would appreciate your vote to deny Kenwood this permit. Thank you for your time.
Dorothy Manka.
Marcus, my neighbor. My concern is about the location on Manchester Road. I live on Missouri Avenue, which comes off of Manchester Road, which is already very, very busy. At the end of my block is the Westchester School. Every day I have counted as many as 45 to 50 cars heading to Manchester Road. Because there isn't any light there, the traffic is blocked up going either east or west. And I feel Manchester Road is already having too much traffic. Thank you.
Alice Sido.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and fellow cabinet members. I'm sorry, not cabinet. I just moved to Kirkwood
call me anything you want. Just call me mayor. I don't.
All right, Mr. Mayor and the cool people to the right and to the left. Should I say
Wait a
that?
minute, wait a
The
minute.
cool council members.
Cool council members, yes, the CC, the cool council, CCM. CCM and Mr. Mayor, thank you. My name is Alice Saito. I just moved to North Harrison in March. My mother, who unfortunately just passed away from COVID, that's the reason why I moved back to St. Louis from Minneapolis. She had purchased this condo knowing that it was a place for me to recover in my healing. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis back in 2007, and I am working to bring more balance to my life. I see a medical doctor here, and I have a doctor's note. And do I hand these out or do I? Okay. Let me just quickly, excuse me. So I am on the northwest corner, as everyone had stated, that there's a garage and I'm right above the garage, and you walk out at my balcony and that's exactly where the runs are going to be. I'm on the lowest level right above the garage in unit 309. Now, as you'll see with my doctor's note, I'm on a lot of different medications and that causes insomnia, and I have to sleep during the daytime many times. And again, I am rehabilitating and healing. And what's hard is that just yesterday, I was in bed all day, or 2 days ago, I was on a cleanse, my doctor's cleanse recommended, and I had to be in bed resting. I heard one dog bark outside. It was outside, and I heard the dog barking. And I was like, wow. And I don't even hear Manchester. I just want to let you know the traffic does not. And I heard this dog bark, and I was like, wow, I'm so happy that this hearing's coming up so I can share with them that I'm on. I mean, I couldn't imagine like trying to sleep and then have all these dogs barking, and I'm just here. My mother bought this condo for me to move back to help repair in my healing. And I'm just asking, I do have this little letter. I kind of got off topic. If I could just read, if that's okay. So as I stated, my bedroom is directly in front of the dog runs. And because I am the lowest unit, I can hear things easier than any other unit in the complex. Due to my health diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, which causes insomnia, I am required to rest and sleep during the day. A dog resort, which is 2 driveways away, I don't know the exact amount, 50 feet. Sorry, away from my window, where I'm needing peace and quiet to rehabilitate my body, is essential to my complete recovery and healing. Think if you had a mother, a sister, a brother, a daughter or a son, and they were healing and they had just moved to St. Louis, and you heard about this, and it's a possibility they could struggle if this was too loud. And we're in a place where if this is passed, these are, and this, there's not even a 1-year review policy. Like I think that you had stated or asked, one of the people over here, right, had asked, is there a review for this? And they're like, no. So if this goes, then what happens then? So, but really, we're not even going to go there, because I'm really asking you to deny this in the fact that this is really impactful to my recovery and my health. And it's not just me, it's everyone else in the building. The residents that are in the building are, there are some that are on disability. There are some that are not here today because they're also elderly or they're dealing with something and health-related issues. And I'm just asking today that the same compassion
be thought of towards me if you would have a relative in my same situation. And I'm really concerned, and it's just really hard for me to think, because this is my general welfare and this is my home. It's not an apartment. It's not like I can just, it's not easy for me to move if there's an issue or an opportunity. So with that being said, I gave the letter, I wanted to read the letter, but I gave you all the letters. So may I have a copy of the letter to just read from my doctor, what my doctor said, or someone can read it? Thank you so much. To whom it may concern, Alice is currently a patient at Prevention and Healing under Dr. Simon Yu's care. In order to heal, she needs a sound and peaceful environment the majority of time, if possible. Insomnia is a concern. Sometimes she has to sleep during the day. If you have any questions or concern regarding this letter, please call the office. So I did just want to let you know, obviously I'm here, and I would like you to kindly and consider that, I would ask you to deny this, and there are other places that won't affect more people that are in the neighborhood. So thank you for listening to me today. Kindly do what's in your heart. Think about the people that, if I was a relative of yours, that's what I'm asking. Thank you so much, and enjoy your evening.
David Hutkin.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is David Hutkin. I represent the ownership group of the building. I just wanted to say one thing in two parts. The issue about the sound study and the time of year it was performed was simply the way the calendar fell on the application process. We made application in January/February. And so as Fiju mentioned, Fiju volunteered to perform the sound study. So I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that we didn't rig the study time for any particular season. And there was comment made regarding the independence of the sound study, as if sound studies are also gerrymandered to a predetermined outcome. McClure Engineering and Phil and his team are licensed by the state of Missouri, just like civil engineers and other engineers in various fields. They don't manipulate information. The data is scientific. Whether a dog is barking at 60 decibels or 100 decibels is certainly, I'm sure there's dogs that bark at 20 and some that bark at, what seems like 2,000. But I did want to, on behalf of Phil and engineers everywhere, just clear up the record about any sort of belief that somehow one applicant or a different group of interested parties could conduct a sound study and manipulate the outcome of the study. And I also just wanted to say that I wish we had that young girl back that spoke before us at the prior application. It strikes me that there was an applicant before us that we certainly hope meets with your approval. And there were numerous folks up here all sort of giving a testimonial that they live right next door to an outdoor area where there may be as many as 10 dogs or almost twice as many dogs as is being proposed by Kenwood, and they don't hear it. Now, there are other folks, and don't dispute anyone's experiences, who are fearful that two dogs in a pen at one time on a leash with a trained professional would create unbearable and unacceptable levels of noise. I don't know that Phil would feel comfortable to come up and defend his study. We believe the study stands on its own. And I'm sure Phil would be happy to answer any questions you might have about the sound study. Thank you for your time.
Catherine Sherwin.
Hello, thank you for letting me give a comment tonight. When a dear friend of mine called and told me about how she was concerned about being able to get in and out of her condo and do what she needs to do, it really brought me back to when I lost the left side of my body due to hematopoiesis after radiation for brain cancer. And whenever folks in the neighborhood happened to have extra dogs around and there was a lot of chopping, barking when I was trying to walk in and out, learning how to relearn to walk, I just think that maybe it's hard to understand how what seems like little things like that can really make it harder to live in a community and live in your house. And I hope that you'll consider when a lot of people move to a condo because they're looking to simplify or maybe recover from something or what have you. And I just think maybe keeping that in mind might be helpful.
Thank you.
Mayor and council, there are no additional comments at this time.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm here to ask you not to vote for the Kenwood proposal. And I didn't realize that the person before me would have a proposal that does affect me. My lot is 10,000 square feet. And I think her lot is probably 10,000 square feet. And I think a house on Essex cuts, I misspoke where I said I think our yards touch. I think there's a yard in Essex that cuts down between it. So the difference here is that the people in the condo, who are all homeowners as well, have very little space between Kenwood with 60 dogs as opposed to 10 dogs with a whole lot of space. So I don't think that they're comparable at all. And I also think that there's a difference with the style of training. I know Kenwood is outstanding at training dogs, but they're taking dogs that are untrained, right? I mean, the point is to bring them to the facility and train them or to groom them or whatever they do. What Ms. Thiel is doing is training them in their own homes first, then bringing her, which I think is why I don't hear them, because they're already trained before they come to her home. So I just wanted to say, as a neighbor who made those comments, that I think they're totally different situations. So thank you.
Thank you. That it? All right. Thank you, David. All right. With that, anything else from council? All right. With that, this public hearing is closed. And Amy, you mentioned something about needing information before we can have first reading. Is that?
There's just a few more issues with the lighting plan, but I think that we'll
I
have
was going
that.
to say you anticipate having them by the
Yes.
19th. Okay.
Yes.
Then this item will be placed on the agenda for our May 19th meeting. Thank you all. Now we will go to general public comments. Go ahead. Yeah, just go ahead. Yeah.
The public comments portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the city council to listen to comments from citizens. It is not a question and answer session, and the city council will not respond to comments or answer questions during this period. The mayor may refer any matter brought up to the city council to the chief administrative officer or city clerk if action is needed.
Thank you, Kim. Do we have anyone wishing to speak on general matters, David?
Mayor and council, we have no requests at this
Okay,
time.
thank you. We will go on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments on the consent agenda? I'm seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Say no. Consent agenda passes. Move to New business, resolution 58, 2022.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution amending the contract with Murphy Company in the amount of $205,540 for the design and installation of an HVAC unit in City Hall council chambers, judges' chambers, and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an amended contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Just wanted to,
Councilmember
so
Lipson?
this is just for the rooftop HVAC, not that big noisy thing down by the parking lot, right?
My understanding is it is a rooftop unit.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Does that mean we're ignoring the downstairs noisy unit?
I don't know that we're ignoring it, but it's not in this year's budget.
So we are ignoring it.
For now.
Draw your own conclusion from that.
Right, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 59, 2022.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution authorizing the city's use of UMB Bank for $645,000 of Kirkwood's investments and updating information provided by the city of Kirkwood to UMB Bank regarding banking services as indicated in the organization resolution and agreement, a copy of which is attached here too and incorporated by reference herein.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
I've got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. We'll go to city council reports. Any reports from anyone?
Yeah, I'd like to report that the mayor was seen passing out cookies from Pioneer Bakery on an Amtrak train this week. Did an exceptional job.
Thank you.
I felt obligated to try one of the cookies.
You
They were delicious.
them
Yeah.
bad cookies.
They were delicious.
It smiled back
Didn't
at him.
save any for us, though.
No, my grandson has one.
Thank you. Anything else on this side? All right.
I survived my first meeting back, I think.
Well, the question is, did we?
That's
That's the
it. Yeah.
question. Anything on this side? You set yourself up.
Oh, you really did.
Oh, I would love to respond to that, but no,
Hear you.
I won't. I have nothing to
Okay.
to report.
All right, Chief Administrative Officer report,
I have no report at this time, Mayor.
City Attorney report.
nothing to report, Mayor.
I bet the City Clerk has a report.
I do. Yes, Your Honor, we have an upcoming public hearing on May 19th, a request for a special use permit outdoor use and site plan review for Taco Buddha at 11111 Manchester Road. And that is all I have to report on.
And thank you for filling in tonight, Kim. Thank you very much. All right, next meeting of City Council is on May 19th at 7 PM. This meeting is adjourned.